Next up, Ben. Ben Morel. We've got a slight change to the agenda here. So Ben Morel from Taylor and Francis, he's going to talk about user experience in the library. Over to you, Ben.
Thank you. Cool. Who's controlling the clicker at the minute? There we go. There we go. Cool, thank you very much. So yes, this was originally supposed to be a talk on lean management in the library, but unfortunately, due to some eBook schedules changing around, it's actually on user experience in the library. I say unfortunately, but I still think this is a really important topic in the days when I keep hearing about attendance in libraries and usage of libraries declining. Making both the physical and the digital libraries the best possible experience for patrons is really key to reversing that trend. So, who am I, first of all? I am a marketing manager at Taylor and Francis. Before joining the publishing world, I worked agency side, both as a marketer and as a project manager, helping people to both deliver new websites and new mobile applications, but also to take their existing technologies and to modify them, to change them, to improve them, to give the best possible user experience for their customers. So I've worked directly with designers of all stripes on user experience and researched it and thought an awful lot about it in all sorts of different worlds. Because the thing about user experience is that it's kind of a universal concept. It doesn't matter whether you're looking at it as from a website perspective or a mobile app or a library. The ideas that drive a good user experience and the principles behind a good user experience are all the same. The principles behind a bad user experience are all the same as well. And there's lots, unfortunately, of examples of bad user experience. I could talk about my local post office. I could even talk about the kitchen at Taylor and Francis. The one I'm going to look at, though, is the ticket machine at the car park. Because these are truly terrible. They're horrible to try and get your head around. Right, why are they horrible to try and get their head around? We all recognize that they are, but why? Well, it's because your user journey goes something like this. You start at the top where you've got a big shouty thing saying to start, and you come down into the keypad. From there, you go to a place where there's an arrow pointing left, but you need to go down to look at the instructions. From the instructions, you go up, you put your machine in, your change in. Now you can look at the actual full instructions to the machine. Have you done it all right? Yes, I think I have. I'll push the green button. I finally get a ticket. That's horrible as a journey, isn't it? To try and do all of that around something, it's just not pleasant. And that's the key thing about user experience. It's all about a journey. We don't experience something in isolation. We experience a set of waypoints, and we experience the travel between them. So it is a kind of journey. And in marketing, when we are examining ways to improve conversion rates, whether it's of purchases, whether it's of lending or anything else. We talk about the customer journey, we talk about the user journey, because that's exactly what it is. And yeah, this just, imagine if one of your patrons came into your library and had to undertake a journey like this. They came in through the main door, and they saw a set of instructions, so followed those, and then had to bounce around to a service desk that's kind of over here somewhere, where somebody told them to go over there, but they actually needed to go back round here. And then from that, they finally got to read some instructions, and then they got to find their book and take it out and leave again. That would be horrible for them. So exactly the same principles that apply to this ticket machine at the car park also apply to the library. So, what are those principles? Taking the idea that this is all about the journey, one thing that makes life really easy on a journey is a set of good signposts, isn't it? Now, these can be completely literal signs. You go into a supermarket. Supermarkets are great at all this kind of psychology. They signpost exactly where everything is and exactly where you need to be. And I know that you guys are probably sitting there thinking, well, we kind of do a lot of that. But what would be really interesting is to go back into the library and have a look at it with fresh eyes. Imagine that you're a fresher. You're coming in to accomplish a specific task. You want to take out a book on geology. You've never been into the library before. You've not done the induction section because, like so many other students, you're a bit lazy. And you want to take a book out on geology. Or you want to find a periodical on physics or whatever it is. Does the library signposting help you through that journey? If it does, brilliant. If it doesn't, the user experience isn't going to be great. And so the patron who comes in, gets a bit lost, bounces around, then decides, actually, this is going to be easier if I didn't bother. Now, a lot of you, like me, probably came in on tubes today. And you can have an awful journey on the tube. They're crowded and they're noisy, and yeah, they're one of the reasons that I don't live in London, having done so for a couple of years. So the tube journey can be a bad journey, especially because a lot of people end up standing by the doors. What if you could change that in a relatively easy way? There was a guy, Phil Smart. He's a user experience designer. He works with governments. He works with major technology organizations. And he thought, well, what would be a great way to do it is to do a bit of signposting. Make it a bit fun as well. Don't just have an announcement telling people, please move further down the carriage. Have something that makes them want to move further down the carriage. A good signposting there, improving the user journey. Can you do something similar? Not just a signpost saying the geography books are over here and the physics books are over there. Something that makes people want to explore the spaces. And I'd encourage you, by the way, this is from a website called 50 Problems in 50 Days, where he did just this. He went all around Europe and he solved the problems that he saw using user experience design. They ranged from digital, they ranged from transport, all sorts of different things. And I really encourage you, if you're interested in designing better library spaces, to have a look at this guy's work, Phil Smart. As I say, my experience, a lot of it is in the digital world. And just like David earlier, I spend a lot of time looking at retailers because retailers do this brilliantly. The best retailers live and the worst retailers live and die, respectively, by the quality of their user experience. So how do they use signposting? Well, the checkout is the most obvious place. And ASOS are great at this. ASOS, you can see exactly where you are in the journey, exactly what your next stage is, and exactly how far along you've come and how far you have left to go. So you don't suddenly get to the card processing part and go, oh, damn, I've got to go into the other room and get my card. You know it's coming up and how far away it is. So they remove any frustration, all through good signposting. And in that way, they create a great user experience. Then they have more people coming and completing the task that they wanted to complete. As I say, a journey is a set of destinations, waypoints that you reach. You don't just start in one place and end up in the other. You hit a set of waypoints. And a good journey sees those waypoints fulfilling a need, and each of those waypoints fulfilling a specific need as well as it possibly can. So your train platform, that fulfills a single need. The train pulls up, you get onto it. The cafe behind it fulfills a single need. It gives you your caffeine intake for the morning. You don't try and do the coffee thing on the platform. You don't try and catch the train in the cafe. That just kind of doesn't feel right. It doesn't make sense. And that's kind of a problem when it comes to large spaces, because we have things that we have multi-function spaces in libraries, as we call them. From user experience design, those are a bit of a problem, because you have a destination that's trying to fulfill multiple needs. And if you're trying to fulfill multiple needs, can you fulfill each of those as well as having a single destination fulfilling a single needs? An example, slightly old example, is from 2006. of an individual study area, Glasgow Caledonian Library, University Library. Aesthetically, I have no problems with this from a design point of view. The colour of the carpet's quite nice, those desks are great. Historically, those desks are from the Scottish Parliament. So historically, tying the university back into its roots, great. I think architecturally, if you like the industrial look, it's absolutely fine as well. From a user experience point of view, though, does it fulfill its need? Well, the first thing to notice is in a big open space. A silent individual study area in a big open space, you're going to get noise travelling. Each of the desks is very open as well. It's very easy for the silent individual study to become actually conversation. You've got one PowerPoint, which is, oh, yay, this does work, good. You have an electronic PowerPoint down there. That's it. So that person can reach you, that person can reach you. What about everybody else who wants to charge their laptops? From a user experience point of view, then, this isn't great. Compare this with Newcastle City Library. This is kind of dull. I think we can agree on that. It's very functional. But as a silent individual study space, it's great. You're in that kind of bubble that you want to be when you're in those situations. You're removed from any distractions. It's not perfect. The chairs look as though after half an hour they wouldn't be particularly comfortable. It'd be nice if there were a window or two in there as well. But functionally, this is a place that fulfills a single need. And it does it, I think, really quite well. One of the really important things about designing a good journey is people don't take the route that you think that they will all of the time. They have their own needs, they have their own desires, they'll go where they want to go. And so if you find that you want to change usability, change behaviors, best way to do that is through observation. How are people actually using the space? Is it in the way that you set it aside for? Is it something completely different? Do they have a set of needs that you didn't even realise were there? Now, I'm going to give Glasgow Caledonian a chance to redeem themselves because they've done something great here. Lots of libraries have cafes now because people want to sit and drink a latte and everything. But I'll keep quiet there and hopefully that can be edited out later on. But this is kind of an odd situation because I've just said about single spaces, single needs. Well, this person's need is actually to be able to do their work while having a drink. Maybe they don't get their caffeine at the same kind of time as some of the rest of us do. They have to have the caffeine during the session. If you have a standard cafe layout, PowerPoints on the floor like the one down here, or none at all, or they're far away, then you kind of have a problem because what happens when the laptop battery runs down? Well, the person has to stop their study periods, their study session, they have to go somewhere else instead. They can't get near their caffeinated beverages because, as we know from the time of the libraries at Alexandria, no hot beverages or food. So what Glasgow Caledonian have done is installed PowerPoints at the tables. It means no messy cables trading everywhere, no trip hazards or anything like that. It means that people can continue their study session, people can fulfill the need that possibly wasn't even realised at the time of construction with a relatively simple change. Now, installing these at every single table along in a whole cafe isn't going to be a simple change. But seeing whether it's useful is. And we don't have to just do this in the physical world. We can do this online as well. Now, one of the reasons that this place is kind of on my bucket list, which seems to be a continuing theme for today, is that I study physics at university. And so being here where Humphrey Davy, where Lawrence Bragg, where Michael Faraday, obviously, has been here, is something that is brilliant for me. But I also love statistics and analysis and all the rest of it. And there are so many web analytics tools out there. You've got things like Google Analytics, great for analyzing each of the stages in the journey. How do you measure the way that people move through? You can get heat mapping tools. Like this is an eye tracking heat mapping tool that you can use to experiment with patrons of librarians, sit a few of them down, allow them to run through a set of tasks that you've defined for them, see how they do it. Where do they click? Is it where you expected? Is it somewhere completely different? Do they take a roundabout journey because they can't find the resource that they need? You can do it with clicks as well. There's great programs like Crazy Egg and ClickTail and all sorts of others that allow you to see where all of your users are clicking on a particular page. And so you can observe exactly how people are going through their journeys, and you can see whether it's what you expected. You can see whether you're signposting them well enough to be able to complete their journeys in a way that gives them a great experience, that makes them want to come back to your website, to your physical location. Now, just before I said about those pop-up PowerPoints, they're kind of expensive to install in the whole cafe, but starting with one or two of them, that's much less expensive. And running small experiments on usability and user experience can yield really beneficial results. So I have been chatting recently with a lady at Cambridge, Yvonne, who has been asked in the past, does she have a beanbag budget? Now, some titters around the room, because it sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? Well, why? What's so great about beanbags? They're kind of the man bun, I think, of the library world. You see people all over the place with them, but would you ever actually wear one yourself? Would you actually use one yourself? Well, Yvonne started with 2 beanbags, so she thought, well, let's give it a go, let's experiment. They proved so popular, they now have 16 of them in one of the libraries at Cambridge because they get used constantly. So they're obviously fulfilling a need that the librarians didn't even realize was there. And that small experiment, 2 beanbags, that's all it was, has revealed the need, has revealed this set of user experiences. They've also, I've chosen this image because there's a nice little pot plant on the top there. They've also looked at changing the environment. They've looked at people needing more greenery and things like that, and discovered that the places that they put plants in saw greater usage. And so it was a need for an environment they didn't even realize existed. And experimenting with the small stuff can then lead to both you being able to define the need, how it will fulfill it, and also, crucially, hopefully being able to get budget in order to be able to fulfill that need. And as I said at the start, the reason that I'm here standing in front of you, despite the fact that my experience is mostly digital, is that these ideas are universal. So I'd encourage you all, those questions that I've asked about signposting, those questions that I've asked about does each space in the physical and in the digital library fulfill a single need? I'd encourage you to go out and ask those questions about your library, about the libraries that you visit. And if you are interested in user experience in the library specifically, we at Taylor & Francis have just created a free downloadable resource that contains chapters from some of our most used user experience books, focusing specifically on the library. You can take down the URL there. You can come and visit us at the TNF stand. We've got flyers and things to remind you of the URL, and you can go away and you can have a look at what some of the other books in the library series, one of which will be Lean Management in the Library, when that is eventually published. I'd kind of like to leave you with that challenge. Where can you improve the user experience in the library using those ideas? In the physical space or in the digital? Thank you.